Hello, everybody. Glad you could join us for episode number 51 of the Launch and Beyond podcast, a podcast designed to support you in not only achieving great success in your business, but in all other areas of life as well. You hustle and grind, doing whatever it takes to grow your business. You're constantly on the go and available 24/7. But after a while, you start to notice that you're not as effective as you once were. You feel exhausted, tired, depressed, and burnt out. You know that what you're doing and how you're doing life is not sustainable. You're losing contact with the people and the things in your life that really matter. It may well be that you haven't been investing the time to nurture and sustain yourself during this journey. In this week's episode titled Recharging Your Batteries, we reveal some of the most common signs and symptoms that you may be burnt out and discuss some suggestions on how you can change things. We hope you enjoy it. So Adam, we're changing gears in how we've been going through a couple of our last podcast episodes. This one's really about recharging our batteries, and we're recording at the end of a longish sort of a day, hectic period of time for us. So it was a case of how befitting, you know how sometimes the themes and the topics, you've mentioned it before, they hit you just as you're experiencing those things. So it's quite a really good way to do that. We've prepared for this episode by clowning around, mucking around, recharging our batteries, all in readiness for this episode.
Yeah, there was a lot of clowning in between. There was a lot of Matthew McConaughey, and
If anybody's seen The Wolf of Wall Street, that was how we were getting into stuff. Yeah, that was the way we were getting into the zone. So
that's really one way to recharge your batteries, just laughing and having fun.
Yeah, it is. It is technically. So I guess by way of background of this episode, in Australia now we've had summer holidays, and this traditionally is a period of recharging for most people. That's been a hectic. What a year 2020 was, and for most people,
that thing.
By the end of, I saw someone recently go, "Hey, I've had my 7 days trial of 2021. I'm cancelling my 21 subscription." That's what they just said. So this is just a background. But Christmas holidays, January in Australia, summer holiday time. So a lot of people spend that time recharging. Unlike in places like America where you've got Christmas and you keep going on, this correlates with our summer period. So this is a really befitting time where a lot of people sit back, reflect, recharge, and look at, how did I do things last year? What am I doing this year, and what can I do differently that may set things up for me? So I guess that was the area for it. I noticed at the end of 2020, people were exhausted, probably more so than I've seen in a long
while,
time. Yeah. And so to be able to unpackage and put stuff down and create some space for self was very, very important and helpful. So I know for myself, I used a lot of that time to unwind, to relax, to reflect, to eat and probably eat a little bit more, and just really take stock of, the year that was. And that's, to me, that was really the motivation behind our podcast episode today.
Yeah, I went away to my uncle's holiday house in Apollo Bay, and my girlfriend has a glamping tent, so we set that up in the backyard.
You really roughed it, boss.
Yeah, we roughed it. The air mattress was really terrible in there. But it was super fun because I just left my work phone and charged it once in the whole time I was away, just to make sure that there was no real emergencies. But I left both of my phones just doing nothing. I was really in the zone, just recharging my batteries, happy to be around my family. No TikTok in the whole week. So it was just nice. Yeah, I was withdrawals. This week I've had like 2 10-hour days, just got to catch up on everything. But it was just fun being present with a whole bunch of people that I don't get to spend so much time with because everyone's so busy all the time. So it was just great fun just to enjoy. And
have you found that sometimes the harder you crank, like I was talking to someone, a client it's not a few weeks ago. Yeah, it would have been a couple of weeks ago actually. And they told me that it took them nearly 2 weeks to really drop into relaxation. And I guess the more intense things are, the longer that draws out for people. Did you find that was the case for you? Did you take a little while to switch off, or you could go from where you were to pretty chill in a very quick amount of time?
We were on holidays from the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I got to Apollo Bay, I think it was the 28th.
Yep.
So I already had 3 or 4 days with
Yep.
the Christmas in between. So there was lots of food and booze.
Yep.
But the second I got to Apollo Bay, the way it is, you drive in and you're at the top of a hill.
Yep.
If you go on the inland way, and you just see the beach open up. And every time I see that,
Beautiful.
every time it's beautiful, but I'm like, I'm on holidays now. So it was instantaneous for me at that point. But then the second I got there and the cold beer just got handed to me as I walked in the door, I was like, holidays. Yeah. So it was
the
quite
place
quick
of
for
the
me.
coldest water to swim in.
Yeah, we don't use eskies there or chili bins
far out.
or ice boxes. We just put the beers in the water, and it's
I've been there where it's 40 degrees and you go into the water and you swear you're coming off the South Pole.
penguins swim in that water.
That's-
Even in the middle of summer,
Wow.
and we've been fishing, I've seen penguins in that water like at 5 p.m. So you can imagine how cold it is there.
Wow. Wow. So that really is, I guess, the genesis of why we're talking about recharging our batteries, because we've done the same. You know, I spent a lot of the time, I live by the beach, I spent a lot of time just being on the beach itself, just walking past it, chilling out, catching up with friends, etc. And like you just said, is just hitting pause on certain areas of time and work so that I could replenish my heart and soul, catch up with some sleep and rest and really do things that reconnect me back to myself, to other people, exercise, all those kind of things. So I use exercise. I in January particularly, when in the Christmas New Year period, I actually ramp up my exercise a lot. And I find it's really helpful for me because I feel I'm starting the year strong and I'm starting the year healthy. And that's part of my recharging my batteries as well. So really what we're going to talk about today are, I guess, some of the early warning signs that things may not be working for you, or you may be leading towards fatigue and burnout, and some steps and practical steps that you can take, because you may not have 2, 3, 4 weeks at the end of the year to basically hit pause. You may only have a weekend, and sometimes that weekend can be all the difference that changes your perspective and recharges your batteries. So we'll talk a lot about that today.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk about burnout specifically and what is burnout, right? So burnout's a lot of times a reaction to a prolonged or chronic stress, demands that you're putting on your body, your mind over a period of time. And it can be categorized in terms of 3 perspectives. Number 1, you see exhaustion. Okay, you can be physically tired, mentally tired. You can be burnt out because you're cranking at too high a level for a long time, not having any downtime. Number 2, you'll find there's a level of cynicism that shows up with people. They start getting defeatist. They start getting withdrawn. They're depleted. And so consequently, their humor or their joy goes, and that's basically replaced by cynicism. You know, so it quite often happens a lot. And thirdly, you'll see quite often feelings or examples of reduced professional technical ability. So they're not performing as well or to the level that they previously were. And so those 3 things together generally will indicate basically burnout. I look at it like nuclear fallout. You know, if you've ever watched a atomic bomb site, and afterwards you just see that there's just, you know, like there's this heaviness that's around. That's really, to me, the analogy I draw with burnout.
Yeah.
And no matter how much you try to accelerate when someone's burnt out, it doesn't go anywhere, right? So some really important signs and symptoms of burnout. Number 1 could be being overwhelmed, right? And you quite often see that going into here in December. I saw a lot of people were burnt out. They were probably cooked from about September, to be honest.
Yeah.
And they had to go through the motions. They had to go through, and it's really hard. You know, people who are in retail, and even though it was quieter in retail than other years, by comparison, imagine being cooked, mentally tired, then going into the busiest time of the year. It's a double whammy. So a lot of people would have gotten to New Year and really been overloaded. So overwhelm is one of the most common areas too.
That's what happened mostly in the hospitality industry. It was nothing in Melbourne, pretty much. through the lockdowns, it was almost 10 weeks, 2.5 months
Yeah.
where no one was allowed inside the premises. It was all takeaway only.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it went from nothing to everything, like
Yeah.
turning over tables 3 or 4 times a night just because they wanted to rotate through just so it was viable for them to open up and have their staff on. And then leading into December when pretty much all the caps were lifted, or like 100 persons per venue. That's a pretty big venue to have. But they were turning that over twice in a night still. So they were just pumping and pumping. So they were mentally exhausted from, are we going to earn any money this year? How are we going to make any repayments? To all of a sudden, I can't even breathe because I'm so busy. And I saw it as I saw it as a very stressful time for a lot of people. They were overwhelmed.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that you'll see. Quite often the other thing is an alienation from other people. So you'll quite often find that if you're in survival mode, if you're exhausted and tired, you're not really seeking out other connection, are you? You're just kind of going, man, I've just got to get through the day. I'm not worried about and you'll see that happen a lot. It's like they're obligatory catch-ups. They're ones that they have to do, but people don't want to do them. Given a choice, they're just going, look, well, I just want to sit down and not do anything. I don't necessarily want to go and catch up with the 17th Christmas party. I'm exhausted and tired. But that's an indication that when if you're normally someone who likes spending time with people and then suddenly you're shying away from it, something's going on. Some of it may be that you're burnt out. All right, number 3, that you could be experiencing physical symptoms of chronic stress. And the most common ones we'll quite often see are, insomnia, trouble sleeping, muscle issues, headaches, ulcers, those kind of things. They're physical symptoms that are related to sustained stress.
Yeah.
Okay. 4th one is emotional exhaustion. You're depleted. You don't have the energy or capacity to do anything. You might be reactive. You might be, snappy. You may be grumpy. You may be basically argumentative. That's how they play out as an indication of feeling exhausted, tired, burnt out. That's you're not really your normal resilient, calm, compassionate, patient person. Right?
I got angry a lot.
Angry is another one. So that's emotionally in there, and couple all those together. And the 5th thing is you're quite often going to find that your performance, whatever that performance will be, is going to be compromised. So if you're having trouble with all the areas that we've mentioned, you're going to have trouble concentrating. You're going to have trouble thinking creatively. You're going to be having trouble just carrying on your day to day with any enthusiasm or energy. That extra 10% that makes the difference. Right. Yep. So that's really how that plays out in those regards.
Yeah, I remember it would have been during my apprenticeship. I was working 100-hour weeks, at least 100-hour weeks. And I was just angry, tired, didn't want to do anything. It was like work home type thing. And even if I did have a random day off that I could do something, I just didn't want to do anything. And I just felt slack, which I learned ways to deal with it. But then when I had opened my second business and had been doing it for about a year, the bakery and the factory, I felt like I was maintaining it, but then my body broke out in shingles. And that was the physical reminder of, hey, time to slow down.
Yep.
And that was about 2 years ago. And since that point, 2019. So since that point, I've really, really gone through the steps that we're about to go through. But the 75-hour program helped me with that. I know that puts a lot of strain on there, but it made me control my controllables. Yeah. So all the other stuff was non-negotiable. It was me doing my work, not doing extra hours, not burning myself out, me doing the exercise, which is a way to release all that stress, and then just eating right. Yeah, but we'll go through how to recharge your batteries.
Yeah,
but
I think it's important because we both talked about going away, and that may not always be possible. That may not always be, sure, great, go away for a month, excellent. But on a day-to-day or in a situation where you've only got a few hours, what do you do? Well, we've got some practical steps that you can incorporate and you can use that will assist you with recharging your battery. So we've got a list of 15 of these recharge suggestions and recommendations for you to be able to use. You can refer to these in our show notes. They're always there for you, as well as every other episode for you to go back to and refer back to. So we've got 15 suggestions and recommendations, Adam. Step number first recommendation, first and foremost, should be sleep, right? Quite often when we're busy.
4 hours of sleep.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of, I always would have loved to try and push the envelope. I just know in myself that it comes at some cost, and sleep research shows that we can function at those levels, right? But in terms of our rechargeability, nothing recharges us as good as sleep, right? So sleep deprivation is one of the biggest causes of burnout. So what I quite often will say to people, particularly, and this is the context and background that I had in health, is compromise other things where you can, or cut other things, but ensure that you get to the absolute basics, and sleep is the biggest one. So if you can, get as much sleep as you can, you're going to be more adaptive. You're going to not be as mentally foggy. You're going to be able to handle your scenario. And that's the quickest, easiest way, is just get some sleep and make sleep a priority for you as much as you can.
Arnold Schwarzenegger says just sleep faster.
Sleep faster. That would be great. But that's an efficiency, right? There's other people. So people who sleep too much increase the incidence of diabetes.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a correlation between sleeping too much. But we're talking if you know that you need 6 to 8 hours, right?
Yeah, that's a good spot.
And that, or some people go, hey, I need 9. Okay. Well, we were just talking about Matthew McConaughey's book just a little while ago before we started recording, Green Lights, fantastic book that I read during the Christmas holiday period. And Matthew says that he's got to sleep 9 hours a day, right? And when he doesn't, he loses that spark that charm, makes him that charm. And so he's identified that as one of his necessary things. So that's what works for him. So if you know that you function great at 6 to 8 hours, then if you're routinely getting 4 by choice, then you're cutting yourself short, or you're increasing your chances of burnout,
fatigue,
all those kind of factors. So
health issues.
Yeah, correct. And by the same token, if you're finding yourself you can't get out of bed routinely and you're sleeping 9-10 hours, you may need to do some investigation about why that may be the case. Either there may be a genuine health issue that's predisposing you to that, or it may just be that you don't have the inspiration and desire and willingness to get out of bed, right? So if you haven't got a big enough reason to get out of bed, quite often that's the biggest factor, and that'll deplete you as well. So sleep definitely has to go to number 1 with a rocket. Closely followed by number 2, Adam, is levels of hydration. And both of us, having done 75 hard, honoured the 4 litres or 1 gallon of water a day. Now that definitely gets you in close proximity and association and friendship with a bathroom, right? Because it's an input-output thing. And if you're pumping in 4 litres of water, you're going to be visiting the bathroom a lot. But what it does...
Don't walk too far away.
Yeah, don't walk far. I found that for a long time. Even if I plan my runs and my walks, I had to plan them around where can I get to a toilet block, right? It's ridiculous.
Hey, I was where are the trees right now?
Well, that's right. Where I live, mate, there's nowhere to hide, so I had to plan my runs and my walks around where I knew I could get to a toilet.
Just walk into the water.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty cold as well too. So, but hydration is really important, and particularly if you're drinking a lot of stimulants, a lot of coffee, tea, etc., that dehydrates you even further. So it's kind of like a carbon offset process to ensure that you're staying hydrated. Just in the normal day-to-day respiration, breathing, we lose water. And people who aren't drinking enough water are, number 1, dehydrating themselves. Number 2, they're increasing the impact on their health and well-being. But number 3, they're burning themselves out. So it's essential and important. Number 1, you focus on your sleep. Number 2, you concentrate on your water intake. It's essential.
Yeah, I remember before the 75 hard stuff, I attended here a seminar with you.
Yeah.
And you were telling us about the water, like the new category. It's not 2 liters a day for males. It's 3.2, is it? And females was it 2.2 or something like that? Yeah, so even the 2 liters a day is becoming a little less than maybe they reassessed it with all the stimulants that we had, so they had to boost up and combat that. But yeah, 3.2 is good. I think 3 liters is good. 4, as you said, you get
That's pushing it for me.
You get a good relationship with the bathroom.
That's the go. But the principle is hydration is so important, right?
Yeah.
And number 3, rounding out the holy trinity, particularly is nutrition, right?
Yeah.
So what you put into your system, and I know you've heard that before, but that's one of the things you can control. Nutrition is really important. If you're not getting adequate nutrition, you're not, replenishing with fruits and vegetables, cutting out your sugar. Sugar's the big one. That really
Refined sugar.
Refined sugar particularly is the one that really cranks your adrenals and leads you to an artificial stimulation, which leads you ultimately to burnout.
Yeah.
So anybody who's ever heard of adrenal fatigue is basically your adrenal glands, which are responding to a stress response, are overstimulated. And one of the things that stimulates your adrenals a lot is sugar, right?
Yeah.
Artificially. So having an awareness around what you put in your mouth is going to serve and help you and recharge you really well.
Yeah, I made sure that we said refined sugar because a lot of people say, oh, you got fruits on the list. There's so much sugar in that.
Yeah.
But that's fructose and it's not concentrated and it's mixed with water and fiber.
Yeah.
So you're not getting the same concentration levels or the same power as you do with refined sugars.
So we're talking a lot of, even about like juices and stuff, highly concentrated.
Yeah.
So they're the ones. So I agree with you in terms of fruits.
Yeah.
But like we're talking like a lot of sweets. We're talking a lot of
lollies, cakes, biscuits,
soft drinks.
Yeah.
Those kind of things that increase your incidence of basically hypoglycemic events, but really affect your capacity. Remember, we might have mentioned before too, the receptor sites in your brain that sugar hits are the same ones that hit basically cocaine and heroin, right? So
the dopamines and stuff.
It's basically hitting those parts of your brain, the receptors, and so it's having that same effect on your brain at that level. And so when you're stopping that, you're going to have withdrawals.
Yeah.
And I know in the past when I don't have sugar, but the moment I started decreasing that, man, I felt shocking. I felt terrible, and so people who have a lot of skin issues, a lot of trouble, you'll find that a lot of skin issues, psoriasis, eczema, they can't sleep at night. They'll go off sugar. Initially it'll get worse, but eventually, because that basically candida, which is the driver of that, feeds on sugar. And so the moment you clear it, goes through a die-off reaction. But it's got to go through that to then improve. But what happens if you're cooked and exhausted and overstimulated and you're relying on sugar, it's going to burn you out.
Yeah, well, one big tip I can tell you about nutrition is have whole foods. And it doesn't mean you have to be whole food or plant-based. I'm not saying that. Have whole foods, eat the actual fruit, eat the actual vegetable. Don't have these concentrates and go, this has 8 serves of vegetables in it. No, you need the fiber because the fiber feeds good gut health. It feeds your good gut bacteria. So we might not be able to process the whole fiber, but we've got parts of our body that need fiber. And most people in America and Australia are fiber deficient and their main source of fiber is bread, but it's not the right fibers that you need. So you need to have these whole foods. And again, if you have these whole foods, you're getting water by default. If you have an apple, I think it's like 80 or 90% of it's water. You've got just a little bit of sugar, a lot of it's fiber, but at the same time, it keeps you fuller for longer because fibers just expands in your belly.
Yeah.
So, and they're also low calories if you're having the whole foods. If you're having concentrates, they're high calories. So you're going to overeat a lot more and you're going to feel a lot more sluggish because you have to have a lot more volume of high calorie food than if you're having low calorie foods like fruits and vegetables and whole foods like rices and beans and grains.
Yeah. Spot on. So point number 4 is exercise, and the importance of getting out there and getting particularly some fresh air and reconnecting with nature is so important to recharge your batteries. I mean, I know that in the middle of the day, if I possibly can, if I'm basically I'm not thinking as clearly, I'll just go out and go for a bit of a walk, recharge my batteries, change my perspective, get some fresh air, changes my whole perception and reality. If I'm frustrated, things aren't going to plan, nothing beats that. And that was part of the thing that I loved about the continuity of 75 Hard is getting out there every day, but particularly getting out and basically getting in the elements. And I know I train every day anyway. Sometimes it would be, a lot of it was indoors, and it was only when it was a deliberate intent to make sure it was always outside that I really noticed a difference. You know, I reconnected and I saw more sunsets and sunrises in that period of time, and it really connected me to me and helped me recharge my batteries as well.
Yeah, I love working out outdoors. I don't like hot days, but you know, to see the sun and to feel the sun, feel it in you, it feels so different than working out inside. And we come from jiu-jitsu background, but being out in the sun it's just a different way to exercise. And a little hippie thing is, every so often just get outside and take off your shoes and socks and just stand on grass. You got to ground yourself, because that will help release a lot of this stress. And we're always on electric stuff, you know, we're always absorbing all this stuff. So if you get outside and just get on the grass, take your shoes and socks off and just ground yourself, you'll feel a lot better just by that, just by default. And reflexology is pretty awesome as well. So that's a different topic completely.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. So the importance of exercise in recharging your batteries is 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. The one that I found has been exceptionally helpful for me is point number 5, and that is meditation. Helping me to connect within self and using breathing as a means of quietening down your brain, connecting you to source, whatever it is that people use meditation for. So recharging batteries for me, quietening down that noise inside the head is so paramount, so helpful for me. So I have a variety of meditation practices. Some of them are 5 minutes long. Some of them go a little bit longer, but I make it a daily thing. What I've realized for myself is there's my daily habits that I plug into my phone that I got to tick off on, and meditation is one of the biggest ones. One of the things that I have found that has the biggest impact in recharging my batteries. So a lot of people talk about that as a practice of helping them emotionally regulate and helping them stay present and mindful. And yeah, that's why we mention it in this category.
It's something that I have a downfall in. I don't do it enough, and I know I should. But some people, meditation and prayer, they can be very similar. It's a point of gratitude, point of being with your thoughts, focusing on breathing, and just being at one with yourself. It's a big part of reflection. There's obviously different types of meditation, so it's not always just about that. But yeah, there's something to be said about being reflective, present with oneself, and just being positive and gracious.
You know what? I find the guided stuff works really well for me. Really helpful.
Yeah.
Because I sometimes, and the more I do it, then I suddenly go, no, I feel like just sitting with it. But I find the guided meditation works really, really well. And you can get some great ones, gosh, on YouTube, on your apps, anything that you can incorporate. But more people talk about the power of meditation as a means of control over self and recharging their batteries than anything else. And that can be done anywhere.
Yeah, I normally put it on YouTube just as I'm falling asleep because you go into the theta mindset, or theta state, I should say. And that's when you absorb a lot of stuff. So if you want to try and reprogram yourself, that's sort of like the crucial time. So I normally do a healing or releasing of negative energy. So it sort of brings me into sleep, but because it's guided, as I'm just at that first point of sleep, I'm still absorbing a lot of that guided stuff. Yeah.
No, I find that, like I said, absolutely fantastic. So point number 6 is to take a break. And we talked about that. Adam, you went to Apollo Bay and froze down in the water.
Talk about recharging your batteries. You jump in the water, you got energy to run away.
Jumpstart your batteries, that one. But scheduling some time away from your work. So some people, traditionally, people will go either to the ocean or to the mountains, right? Because they're high energy places. And so you can absorb a lot of that energy. But I just found that making it where it's been most helpful for me is that when I've pre-scheduled them and I've got something that I feel like I'm looking forward to, and even if they're short breaks, even if they're weekenders, that is the difference that makes a difference, because I find that after a certain time I get lazy, I get antsy, but a certain amount of break that I'm looking forward to every, 6 weeks or so, 8 weeks, even if it's like a weekend or a day where I'm out in the mountains or whatever, I just feel recharged. And you mentioned before, I do live by the beach, and I'm blessed to be able to do that because I walk on there or I run on there every day. And to watch the how the elements and the seasons change and how the water changes and stuff is cathartic for me, and it grounds me. And so that was one of my, when I'm planning my ideal life, it had to be close to the beach for that reason, because it gives me such peace and serenity. So I find that really, really, really important. So schedule and take a break. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can just be away from your scenario as an intention that helps you ground yourself and ground you to the earth and to the elements that'll really recharge your batteries.
Yeah, I think just getting away, as you said, just even for the weekend, just getting out of the routine, going to do a picnic or set up a tent and just sleep outside. It doesn't have to be a bad tent. You can have a blow up mattress now that you blow up and you just lie on there. It's quite comfortable, but you're just getting out of the same cycle that you're always in, just shaking it up a little bit.
Yeah. So point number 7 is sharing some time with friends, family, and loved ones. That's a great way to reconnect back with them and recharge your battery. I mean, how good is it to have a laugh, have a meal, have a drink or two with someone and just tell rubbish stories or just laugh incessantly and just forget about the concept of what's going on? To me, that's what it's about. The juice of life is in our relationships. And when we're with people who mean a lot to us in particular, that can really recharge our batteries. And so scheduling that and making an intention to seek that out is really helpful, particularly if you're a socializer, if you're a person who gains a lot of your cup's full when you're spending time with people, particularly in this lockdown period that we went through last year. A lot of people really suffered from that, not being able to recharge.
Yeah, well, some people going through it still.
Yeah, correct. So, and some people, their behavior and habits have changed. So even though they're normally people who seek it out, they haven't quite gotten to the point where they're seeking it out again. So as a result of that, they're going to feel flat, tired, depleted. So that would be a great thing to do to recharge your batteries, is just seek out a laugh, something like that assists and helps you out.
Yep. For me, family is crucial in my mood, and I've been fortunate to come from a very good family. We're still all very close, and the amount of time I get to spend with them, that just makes me happy. We just muck around like we're kids. My cousins and I, we'll revert to like we're 6 years old again, but at least this time we got some booze.
Yeah.
Like we were doing some fun stuff. So, but some of the stories that we tell when we're together, it just reminds me like how fun life can be. Yeah. We had a backyard. That's my uncle has a house on a half acre, but we had a backyard with a whole bunch of trees, and that's how we grew up. Was just when branches fell down, we made huts. When they didn't fall down, we climbed up the trees. And we just spent hours and hours just with our imaginations and having fun. And that's what life is about. Yeah. And that's, as you said, trying to find yourself and go back to nature. Yeah. That's always what I remember, is just fun times in nature.
Yeah, spot on. So that's point 7. Point 8, and this is the one that I find, irrespective of what people are doing, how well they're doing, how much they're doing, when you're number 8 comparing or judging yourself and comparing yourself to others, that leads you to deplete yourself just about more than anything else. It's that negative self-talk that you can't escape that will burn you out. So I think as a self-reflection exercise is getting to the place of accepting, loving self is really, really important, and not comparing yourself to others, knowing that you're doing the best you can. The best version of you is better than the one before, and that the saying that you've quite often come up with, Adam, about the comparison of self is really the most important metric rather than anything else is so true here.
Yeah. That's how I live my life as well. Is everyone's trying their best,
Mm.
and if their best falls short of your best, or if their best is way in front of your best, you shouldn't compare yourself. Just keep doing the best stuff that you can do,
Mm.
and try and be positive in the way that you do it, and just keep growing and growing, and eventually you'll get the results that you're seeking. But just be happy and positive and be your best version of you.
Yeah.
But don't have to put too much pressure on yourself as
Yeah.
well. Like just live a happy, healthy life.
Yeah. Spot on. And point number 9, which is carrying on from that, really is about simplification and letting go of tasks, roles, responsibilities that don't serve you. So many times people do things out of obligation and by either guilt, and they don't really want to do those, and that exhausts them and that depletes them and that burns them out. So just getting clear on what it is that you're doing, why you're doing it, and how much joy that it gives you. Granted, there are things and tasks that need to get done. However, there are elements and processes that we've gotten into the routine of doing that aren't really serving us. And if you did an audit on it, sometimes you just let go of things because you want to clean the slate and work out exactly what's going on. Then you only bring back the things that really give you joy. And I think that's a really good metric to be able to simplify and take off some of the rocks out of your backpack that may be weighing you down. It's a really good, healthy habit of following through.
Yeah, 100%. I know a lot of people, and I've been guilty of this. I just took on too much, and then I'd resent a lot of the stuff I was doing. I was just tired, fatigued, just doing it because I've said I was going to do it. Now I'm very open to saying no.
Yep.
And if I want to do something, I'll do it. And if I don't want to do it, it's very difficult to make me do it now because I'm just set and go, it's not going to serve me best. And then when I know I'm doing something that's not serving me best, it means that I'm drawing extra energy out.
Yep.
And that burns me away. It burns me out because it's me just trying to it's trying to push a car that's in park instead of neutral.
Doesn't go anywhere.
It doesn't go anywhere.
No.
And you've just got to really exert yourself. Or when you're pushing the car, it's in neutral, but someone's in there with their foot on the brake. And you're like, can you just get off the brake? And it's not moving. And yeah, I try not to do that stuff anymore. So I have simplified. And I think that's a great point.
Yeah, it's the simplification is just, let go of things that don't serve you. And point number 10, which is you mentioned just in passing and briefing there, is learning to say no.
It's almost like I've read the list.
Well, it's almost as if you have. But learning to say no is really important. And with that, developing clear boundaries. There's going to be a lot of invitations that you are given, for example, and the busier life gets, there's going to be invitations, not complications. I guess they could be complications, but but invitations to be everywhere and anywhere. And following all of those processes, that may burn you out. And the biggest thing that changed things for me is getting comfortable at the point of saying, look, no, thank you, but no. And not feeling like you have to rationalize or justify why you said no, is just basically saying, look, thank you, I really appreciate it. It's not something that I can do. And being okay with that. And that was quite liberating. The more no's I said to other things, the more yeses I said to myself. And that meant that I was doing things that gave me joy and fulfillment and had a greater level of as I said, personal nurturing in myself. So I wasn't depleted doing tasks that were within my most important ones to do.
You're prioritizing yourself.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, or us wrong. Just when we say prioritizing ourselves, it means what is true to us. So if that means spending more time with our family instead of going to a dinner party with some random people, I'd say no to the dinner party so I could spend more time with my family or my friends, or like something that's doesn't drain myself so much. It doesn't empty my cup. It keeps my cup full because I can determine what I'm doing for that day.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. Point number 11, and this is where we can be active in what we're doing, is you might want to listen to some music, read, or spend some time doing a hobby that you enjoy doing, that's going to change your mood. I spent a lot of time doing that over the Christmas break. A lot of reading, a lot of music listening, a lot of spent time doing hobbies, all those kind of things. And that filled my cup. And they were sometimes things that I didn't get a chance to do as much of. So to me, being able to just walk down to the beach, sit down, read for a couple of hours, not worrying about time constraints, it was just liberating. When so much of my world is scheduled.
Yeah.
Whether it's, in consulting, traveling here, there, recordings, all those kind of things, it's all scheduled and driven by a clock. I love taking my watch off, just walking down the beach and just not having a time schedule. That's liberating, so that's what works for me. And being able to lose myself and immerse myself in some reading or some music is just, they're the simpler things that I really gain a lot of recharging in. So that's how I go it.
Well, one of the ways I de-stress is by playing the drums.
Yeah.
And my drum kit's at work. So once I finish from my work day, I'm generally last to leave. So I'll just jump on the kit. If it's one song, if it's two songs, I try and actually just drum it out. And I notice...
Is that like your bookend of the day? Is that how you just finish it off?
Yeah, generally it is. Like, it's normally about 4:30, 5 o'clock. Everyone's gone. I start just having fun on the drum kit. And depends if I'm working out that day to how long I spend on the kit. Some days I get on the kit and I'll play for an hour and I won't even feel time pass. And then other days I really want to play and I'll play half of a song and I just stop because I'm like, I'm not feeling it.
Yep.
So then I just go exercise. But the drum kit is just stress relief. You're just smashing stuff until you pop a shoulder out and Jim starts going, what did you do to yourself?
Yeah. So, but that's good. So allowing time to find fun, enjoyment, fulfill some of the hobbies, that definitely helps you out in that regard. Point number 12, you might recall a lady called Marie Kondo, who's like huge Japanese sort of planner who helped people eliminate clutter in their household and work. Well, I guess one of the things that I found really helpful in recharging batteries a lot of times and shifting the energy in my mindset was to eliminate clutter and let go of things or donate things that don't serve you. So as a habit every year, I go through my wardrobe and pull out things that I go, no, it's not working anymore, and donate them and put them to someone else so it could be using. They could be perfectly good condition, but I just don't feel the energy of them anymore. I might have passed and go, look, that was a phase that I had and I pass them on. Someone will need them more than I do, and simplify that process. And I can't tell you how recharging that is. Energetically, that lifts my energy, and I do that all the time. And so decluttering your workstation, decluttering your desk, decluttering your environment, your home, will shift the energy of the place and recharge you as well. So it's a really simple process, but that could work really well.
Yeah, working with a company, it's Edwin's Cafe, but the company was called Caliber Feasts, and every so often they'd put up charity dinners. So they'd auction it off at high-end charities, and I would be the chef that would go and cook. So I've cooked in houses that are worth like $5, $6, $7, $8 million. And you walk in these, and these are people like the president of the Melbourne Rebels and stuff like this. And you walk in their house and you can see it's almost like they've got nothing in there because they've decluttered. They've got a lot of stuff, and what they do have is expensive, but they've decluttered to a point where you're like, did you spend all the money on the house? But no, that's how a lot of these super financially successful people are. They declutter every part of their life, and they just have what's important to them. They might have a pool table. They have a nice bar with some alcohol, but that's pretty much what they're there for, the entertainment purposes. All right, I didn't go through their whole house. Their bedrooms could have looked completely different. But from the entertainment point of view, when I walked in, I was like, oh, this is pretty, humble. Don't get me wrong, the dining table probably cost 20 or 30 grand, but at the same time, they just had enough. They had a dining table with 8 chairs. The center pieces were just like a couple candles, and that was it. And it was nice.
So there's a vibrancy, there's an energetic of feng shui that you basically stop the flow of things if things are too cluttered.
Yeah.
And so you can definitely feel it. Like a lot of the times just taking the clutter off the desk just simplifies everything and allows you to focus and clear your mind on so many things. So
I won't show you photos of my room then. It's just
a lot of the
mountain of stuff.
But a lot of the times that will indicate, honestly, like if you look at that and you go, okay, that's productive. I know myself, I can get into the habit as well. I just have to routinely go simplify, and it does. It just shifts a whole lot of pressure off. So I find that, and not only me, but a lot of people have found, particularly through Marie Kondo's work, they just do it through wardrobes.
Yeah.
And it really minimizes a lot of stress for them. You know, people have had cathartic experiences by decluttering their life and world.
Well, that's the whole movement with minimalists.
For the same reason. So that's a really important thing that'll help you recharge. And point number 13 is the one you've mentioned before, Adam, about using a gratitude journal to focus on the present. It's really helpful to recharge your batteries by unpackaging where you're at, what you're thinking, what your intentions are, what you're grateful for. It's so helpful. It's so powerful. It's so empowering. It's a great way to recharge your batteries.
Yeah, when you're stressed and overwhelmed, one of the best things to do is just stop, take a breath, and just remember what's important to you and what are the great things in your life. Yeah. Just put you in that happy space.
It is too, because it's all well and good to go, hey, I feel grateful when things are flying. Yeah. You know, like I'm great. Hey, I won this contract, I did this and that. But when you're getting smashed, that's where it really becomes helpful, is for you to say, okay, well, what can I appreciate? And the discipline of focusing on that takes your mind off the challenges and keeps you grounded. Otherwise, you get taken up in the slipstream of the story that you're telling yourself about what's happening there. And I think that that's really a powerful discipline, and why gratitude is so helpful in that regard. Point number 14 is focus on what brings you joy and makes you laugh. I think that's a great way to recharge your batteries. It could be in hobby, it could be with people. There's a guy called Norman Cousins who was sick and unwell, and he's reported to have healed himself of a major injury by borrowing all these Marx Brothers and Abbott and Costello type movies and just laughing, using laugh therapy as a means of changing his state, and this at a cellular level, not only recharging his batteries but recharging his health.
Yeah.
So laughter, joy are great energies. It's a lighter energy than the dread, the heaviness, the anger, the negative energy and toxic energies that basically you're subjecting to yourself. So they're tiring, they're depleting, and love, joy, and laughter are life effacing and life enhancing emotions to be living as much as you can.
Yeah, I just always revert back to being a cheeky kid.
Yeah.
And I see my dad does it when he's at weddings and at parties. He starts like just being a rascal. And my uncle does it too. And I guess it's what we do in our families, but we just act like kids. And that makes us so happy because you feel so free.
Yeah.
And they're like, and whoever's around just like, oh, they're just being kids.
Planning around.
Yeah. But that's what brings us joy. We just muck around and we don't care. You know, we'll be the fool of the party or the clown of the party. It doesn't bother us. We're having fun. If you're going to judge us, you judge us, but we're having fun.
So that's the way that will recharge people's batteries, is laughter.
Yeah.
It changes you at an internal chemical level and at a brain level, and so a really important thing to indulge in regularly.
It's one of those things that if you smile, like physically smile, it's really difficult for the rest of your body to be negative.
Yep.
Like you actually smile and you can almost feel this energy lifts. And it's just because you did something physical, then chemically and emotionally it'll follow up soon enough. Yeah. So just smile.
Yeah, great.
It's a very simple technique, but just smile.
Yeah. And coming to our last point, now there are more factors and things that will help you recharge your batteries. And so over and above the ones that we're going to mention, you may find more are appropriate for you. But the 15th one for us and one we find really helpful is changing the narrative and story you're telling yourself about you and the situation that you're in. That is really helpful, because if the narrative and the story that you're telling yourself is about based on victimhood, it's about not having control or power in that situation, that's going to cycle you down. That's going to weigh you down. If you can find a way of changing that narrative, changing the story, where you feel like you're able to be in control or have empowerment in the situation, that's going to be so much more liberating and better for you than actually being at the effect of life, right? So changing the narrative and story is such a powerful way of recharging your batteries.
Yeah, we've talked about visualization many times before. And if you visualize a negative scenario for yourself, that's what you're going to get. If you visualize a positive scenario, that's what you're going to get. So the stories that you tell yourself have to be positive.
Yep.
They have to be truthful, though, because
Yep.
otherwise you make this crazy story that's
Yep.
not even. You got to be truthful, but be truthful in a positive way as much
Yep.
as possible. That comes back to gratitude as well. You want to be grateful for what you have. You've got to be truthful and be positive. Don't come to the negative default. Have positive as your default.
Yep.
Just be honest, be positive. I'm happy that I have food in my belly. I'm happy I have a roof over my head. It's very simple stuff. I'm happy that I do have my own business. Yes, there are issues that come up, but I'm happy that I run my own course in life.
Yeah.
And tell yourself those stories. Be positive.
Yeah.
Don't go, oh, I'm upset because staff members turned up late. You're putting yourself in a bad mindset.
Yeah.
Always try and use the positive words. I'm happy for, I'm grateful for, because that changes how how do I say it? Changes how your outlook of life is, which affects directly how full your batteries are. Because if you're constantly negative, you're going to be draining.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. So, Adam, as we start winding down in this podcast episode, there's some key points that we'd want to focus on specifically about this topic. And number one, as we've outlined, burnout is a process that develops. It's more often than not as a result of not paying attention to some key areas of your life, whether that's your relationship with self, whether it's your nutrition, your sleep, your connection with others. It's a gradual process that can hit a threshold point without you even realizing it, but it's usually a process of ignoring some things along the way. Okay. Point number two is in dealing with burnout, getting an awareness of where you're at the moment and what it's costing you emotionally, physically, spiritually, even financially is really important. So what's the real cost to you of what's going on? And if you keep going at this way, what's it going to ultimately cost you? What do you need to change in that scenario? And point number three, in order to keep performing at a high level, you have to intentionally have a practice of nurturing and investing time in yourself, because you are your greatest asset. And if you're not nurturing those elements of you, over time, you'll become depleted and you won't function at that optimum level and get the best out of yourself. So if it is your intention to do great things, live a life of meaning, abundance, fun, and joy, there has to be a deliberate intent in filling your own cup and recharging your own batteries, rather than waiting until you're so exhausted and tired that you're needing rescuing rather than recharging.
Yep.
Okay.
Totally get that.
So any final points or comments for you before we finish up, Adam?
I agree with you with when you perform at high levels, you have to nurture yourself at high levels. You can't expect to get the best results out of yourself if you're not looking after yourself. And I think that point is critical. It's the last point, but it is critical. You need to be able to use the list of 15 points that we have, but to fuel yourself correctly, to not drink so much alcohol, to not put so many negative things like sugar into your body. That all directly affects your emotion. And I think food is critical. Obviously, I'm a chef, so food for me is critical in all aspects of my life. But if you're not eating right and you're not drinking enough water and you're putting toxins into your body, you'll never get the right outcomes for you. So if you want to be a high performer, put high performance fuel in you. It's like with a car. If you've got a sports car, you don't want to put the bottom range fuel in there. You want to put the top range fuel because it cleans the engine as it goes. It serves better. You get more mileage out of it. There's so many other good benefits for putting good fuel into your body.
Yeah.
So if you want to be high level, fuel yourself in a high level way. That's the books you read, the food you take in. There's so many other ways. The way you meditate, the way you spend time in nature, fuel yourself and service yourself. I guess if we're going to use a car analogy, you got to upkeep your car.
Yeah. Great way to close out the episode. So thank you for that, Adam, and thank you for everybody for joining us once again. We want to remind you that you can connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and the Extended Launch and Beyond community on these channels. If you've got any questions or comments or any information about any of the podcast episodes we have, please feel free to reach out. A lot of times your questions and thoughts stimulate discussions, not only with us, but with other people that ultimately help us get a greater, broader awareness of things that help us function at our best. And finally, if you're enjoying our podcast and finding value in it, we'd be grateful if you could go over to iTunes and leave us a review. This will allow us to reach more people and have a bigger impact on our community. So once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.